What is going on, guys? Inside New York Sports Podcast here, and today we have a New York Rangers video talking some hockey today because the NHL draft is tonight. And we also have, out of all the three teams that we cover, the New York Rangers have not been talked about at all. And we got some big news for the New York Rangers, but before we get into the show, of course, don't forget to like and subscribe on the road to 400 subscribers. But Mason McTavish, is he going to be a New York Ranger? The New York Rangers are currently in talks with the potential deal with Mason McTavish, and he is interesting. He is an interesting player, in my opinion. I think the deal, in my opinion, is Braden Schneider, maybe pick 26 as well. Hopefully, it's just a player swap. To be honest, that would be great in terms of value. Obviously, I have been monitoring my phone and checking Twitter as always. If a trade is going to happen, I think it'll happen closer to tonight. I believe the NHL draft is either 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. But I want to get into Mason McTavish, right? He's got $7 million, 5 years left on his deal at 41 points this year. He's probably going to play in the top 6, I assume, and I think he could play the power play as well. Another thing, we didn't really get into how the Rangers did this year. Obviously, 8th in the division, not good. Out of any years that we've covered this team, 8th is definitely the worst that they've finished. Obviously, the Carolina Hurricanes won the Stanley Cup this year as well. But listen, this team, the core, everything, it's aging. It is not good enough to contend. There's been a lot of questions. What do they do with Igor Shesterkin? Obviously, he's got a no-movement clause for his entire contract. Adam Fox, what do they do with him? Obviously, Vincent Trocheck is probably going to be dealt tonight. If not, and they keep him, I don't mind it. But to me, I feel like if they don't trade Trocheck, I'm a little bit concerned for Chris Drury's plan because I don't really know where he's going with this. I think he wants to make the playoffs next season, which is probably why he has kept Trocheck on his team, because he still sees some value. Didn't have a terrible season this past year, but wasn't to 75 points he gave you that 1 year. But Vincent Trocheck, I think you can get a lot from him. You look at the centers in this free agency class, it's not good. It is not good. I mean, Boone-Jenner and a few other guys, those are really that's the tier list. You're not seeing the McDavids, you're not seeing all the top, centers in the league. So that's why I think Trocheck can be an enticing piece for a lot of teams. I think a lot of teams have already talked about a deal with Vincent Trocheck, and I think a deal should get done. I'd be shocked if Vincent Trocheck is on the team come opening night next year, solely because the talent and the package you can get for a guy like Trocheck, I think it's there. I mean, like I said, you were 8th in the league. You were 8th in the league. You were not good. You look at a bunch of those teams. A lot of teams made a major jump. The Flyers made a big jump. The Penguins, those are two teams alone. Nobody thought we were going to make the playoffs because they said, the Flyers, they're an up-and-coming team. They're decent. Penguins, they got Malkin, who's up in age. They got Crosby's up in age. Those two teams had phenomenal years. The Capitals took a bit of a step back. The Hurricanes are going to be good again next year. The Blue Jackets just traded for Valerie Nichushkin. The Islanders are not going to be a team to watch next year, in my opinion. Don't think the Devils are going to be a team to watch next year. So, the Rangers are in a weird funk because some of the teams have already made some big moves. The Capitals, they traded for Alex Tuck. The Penguins, they get Hendricks Lapierre. So some teams have already made some moves. But let's get into the pros and cons about Mason McTavish. He's young. That's great. It's great that you can acquire a young player who's 23 years of age. Now, the comment of how the Rangers are cap tight, I know people are probably going to look at that first. It's mainly because they have some not so nice deals, right? They got Mika Zibanejad still locked up for a long-term contract. They got JT Miller still locked up for a long-term contract. They're paying a goalie $11.6 million per year. That's that comment. Now, top six center, obviously, I think if you trade for him, Trocheck's probably gone. He's got 5 years left on his deal. He can play for the power play, so he can have a solid unit. He's physical, two-way game, high volume shooter. I mean, this guy shoots the puck a ton. The $7 million cap hit, it's in the cons, but I don't think it'll be terrible if you did do that. 41 points, that's not terrible either in terms of a con. Obviously, it's going to cost picks or a prospect. Probably going to be Braden Schneider, who's not a prospect. He's an NHL-ready player. Maybe number 26 is involved. Highly doubt number 5 is involved. If they trade number 5 for Mason McTavish, I'm going to be pretty upset, and you're probably going to see a rant on this video. Unproven playoff performer. He's not bad. At the end of the day, it's really the last 2 bullets. That is my concern. Lack of defense and lack of skater. I've seen the games from the Anaheim Ducks. Not great. Leo Carlson and a few other good players, Cutter Gauthier, those type players are fast, quick, make quick decisions. Mason McTavish is a perfect Chris Drury player because he doesn't skate well, plays the body, can score in the gritty areas, be a physical presence. But at the end of the day, you need to get quicker. This team needs to get faster. JT Miller is not fast. Mika Zibanejad is quick, but the game is getting up to him. Adam Fox is very good skater. Gabe Perreault, solid. Alexis Lafreniere, solid. But the majority of this team is not built with top-end talent. It's not, and that's the problem. And that's why, if you're the Rangers, getting as much assets to this team should be the priority. And that's why I keep mentioning in this video, Trocheck should be traded. Trocheck should be moved. Get as much capital as you can, and get as much for Braden Schneider. I mean, if it's not a Mason McTavish trade, I know for sure teams are going to like a physical, and I would honestly consider him a defensive defenseman. He's got some upside offensively. But I think for Braden Schneider, he's a solid player, and I think you can get some decent players or picks out of him, in my opinion. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to get a Bo Byram type trade unless you're trading with the Chicago Blackhawks and Kyle Davison makes one of the most, I wouldn't say franchise altering, but man, you trade away that. And Connor Bedard is probably looking at himself probably could have got a top forward or even a top defenseman, but they pay the price and they want Bo Byram. And by the way, with that deal, Bo Byram, he can leave in the offseason after that. So that's a crazy. But I don't think the Rangers are going to get a Bo Byram type trade. I think for the Rangers, they can get good value out of Trocheck. And for Mason McTavish, obviously, there's a lot to like about him, but there's a lot to have a lot of concern. And the lack of defense and poor skater is definitely that. But, I think for the Rangers, obviously they're eyeing him, and I think a potential trade can happen. But anyways, guys, I think that is going to do it for this little Ranger video. We're back. Rangers content, I think, is back. Probably have a post-draft or maybe a reaction podcast of who the New York Rangers do select I don't think I'm going to go live for it, but I think that's going to do it for this video. Leave a like, subscribe, and we'll see if Mason McTavish is a New York Ranger. I'll see you guys in the next one.